They are children, but they commit adult crimes. 1981, Vermont. 2 young girls are raped, and one of them is murdered. The culprits? 2 local bullies. One gets only 2 years in jail, and outraged citizens force a change in the law. 1988, a teenager sits on death row. Should a child who murders be executed like an adult? We'll look at a case that changed the law. 1978, a 13-year-old kills for a portable radio. Is jail the only answer? We'll look at some alternatives. And we'll hear from our legal expert, Harvard Law School professor Arthur Miller, about the larger issues at stake. When we open the Justice File. We see the stories every night. Stories of a violent generation of children committing unthinkable acts of brutality, even murder. Fueled by plentiful handguns in the drug trade, it seems only to be getting worse. Are they simply children, not fully responsible for their actions, or should they be treated as adults, old enough to pay for their deadly crimes with long prison terms, or even the death penalty? Perhaps there's no better example than the story of a murder in Vermont in 1981. A case that so outraged the population of that state that it forced a major change in the way children who kill are treated under the state's law.
You can set your clock by it. The quiet of Essex Junction is disturbed each afternoon at 4:30 by the Rumley 15th appeared to be no exception until Alton Brousseau, a brakeman who rides the caboose, made a discovery that would shake Vermont to its rural conservative foundation. What Brousseau saw along the tracks near the big IBM plant appeared to be a child staggering towards him.
I could see she was a little girl with no clothes on and was bleeding badly. She says, will you help me? She says, I've been raped. And then she just simply fell at the ground. She went unconscious as far as I could see.
She had stumbled onto the train tracks from the wooded area where she had been attacked. Woods that separate the railroad from a playground in the town's small park. The people here had heard of horrible crimes, usually in distant cities like New York or Boston. But this one, involving the rape and the torture of 2 12-year-old girls and finally the murder of one. This crime involved all local children from this area, both as victims and as criminals. The victims, Megan O'Rourke, daughter of Vermont Social Welfare Commissioner, a tiny child with big dreams of becoming an actress. And her best friend, Melissa Walbridge, whose parents both grew up in Essex Junction, a serious, dependable neighborhood babysitter. The boys who attacked them grew up 7 miles south of Essex Junction in the tough north end of Burlington, Vermont. The Hamlin family lives in this dilapidated house where the small income of Butch Hamlin, a delivery man, was always stretched. His son Louis grew up tough. Even as a youngster, neighbors say he was headed for trouble, his violent temper uncontrollable at times. A block away over a grocery store lived Louis's best friend, Jamie Savage. The son of an itinerant laborer, Jamie was described as borderline retarded. His older brother, Jody, remembers the trouble they got into.
We used to go out and break windows and throw snowballs at cars, go by, you know, like any other kid would do. It's normal. And when we grew older, I learned how to, drive, watch other people drive, so we stole cars. We get in trouble for it. We were too young, so we couldn't go to jail or nothing. We get on probation or custody of our parents and stuff like that.
By Vermont law, until they turned age 16, Louis Hamlin and Jamie Savage were juveniles in the eyes of the law, and thus could not be prosecuted for any crime.
I told everybody, well, we ain't going to get in trouble. Don't worry about it. We're juveniles.
In September of '79, Jamie Savage's family moved from Burlington to this house in Essex Junction. Refusing to go to the local school, Jamie dropped out and took a job washing dishes at the Lincoln Inn. Louis's violent side was now surfacing with increasing frequency. First, toward his family. He was accused of sexually molesting his 13-year-old sister. Then, towards his friends.
He pulled a knife on me, put it to my throat, and I was scared. Like I didn't know what to do. That was the first time I ever got a knife pulled on me. From a friend, a best friend I grew up with.
Louis already was inclined to violence when he witnessed a killing firsthand. just a few weeks before he would become a killer. An uncle took the youngster to a pig slaughter, a common procedure here in Vermont farm country. Louis was suspended from school soon after the pig slaughter and began hanging out at the Burlington City dump, where he and Jamie Savage passed the time shooting gulls with their powerful BB guns. Louis Hamlin was now 16 years old, important because it meant he was now an adult in the eyes of the law. Jamie Savage, though, was 4 months shy of his 16th birthday, and he still could not be prosecuted as a criminal for his actions, no matter what he did.
Megan came in, and I stuck my head out of the bathroom and said, "Goodbye, Melissa. Goodbye, Megan. Have a nice day. We'll see you after school."
After school, the girls came to this park for an hour of play before heading home. At 4 o'clock, the girls decided to take a well-used shortcut through the woods toward the train tracks that led them home. As they headed down the path, neither noticed the boys following close behind them, the same young men Megan had noticed shooting BB guns in the park 2 days earlier. The girls were last seen by their classmates entering the woods at 4:05. At 4:40, only one would come out, Megan O'Rourke, found by the trainman who radioed the Essex Junction police.
We got from the trainman who had discovered her coming out of the tracks that she had said to her friend that there was a friend in the woods where she had been.
Within minutes, Inspector Robbie Yandell had made his way into the dense woods to find an old foam mattress, and beneath it, the missing classmate, Melissa Walbridge.
The victim was lying underneath the mattress with her head in this position here.
There was a knee sock tied to her mouth. There was something else, another article of clothing tied around her throat. Her hands were bound behind her back, near the small of her back, and it clenched. Her hands were in a clenched position. At first, I thought I was probably going to be sick.
Melissa's body was identified, and word quickly spread through the little town. The Walbridges were informed their daughter would not be coming home by Assistant Prosecutor Susan Villa.
Her voice kind of quavered a little and kind of got a little eerie, and she said, oh my God, well, I know you're very busy. I'll just go now. And hung up.
At the hospital, Susan Villa was placed in charge of Megan O'Rourke, who had revived enough to provide the first description of her assailants.
God bless her. She provided us useful information right while they were still working on her wounds. And right from the start, she described the blonde-haired man and the dark-haired man, and who was taller and thinner, and the blonde-haired man, and that she did not know them, but that she'd seen him 2 days before.
The police composites depicted older men. No one suspected they could be young boys from their own community. They needed more facts, and it was Megan O'Rourke's vivid account to Susan Villa that finally provided information that would help break the case.
She said that they each came up from behind, and that one took his hand and the other took his hand, cupped it over their mouths and said, "This is a .45. Don't move or I'll kill you. I'll shoot you." And dragged them back into the wooded area. She said that after they were dragged back there, the dark-haired man told her friend Missy to take off her clothes, and she was told to take off hers. She complied. Missy said, "What for?" and argued, "You can't do this. I'm only 12 years old." The dark-haired man had a hold of Megan, and he grabbed her by the arm and looked at her very closely and said, "What do you think we ought to do with you now?" And she said, "I think you ought to run away." He said, "We don't do that," and shot her in the neck. And he said, "Now you're going to know what it's like to die, to be slaughtered like a pig."
She was my only daughter, the only daughter I'll ever have, and she was very important to me. And that's never going to change.
The investigation was proceeding quickly, with police and prosecutors worried that the killers would get away, or worse, would strike again. When we return, the capture and arrest of the two killers of Melissa Walbridge.
From the director of Alien, Blade Runner, and Thelma and Louise comes a voyage beyond the horizon and the truth behind the adventure of 1492.
New world,
was a disaster.
Gerard Depardieu, Amanda Sante, and Sigourney Weaver in a Ridley Scott film. 1492, Conquest of Paradise. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, October 9th at theaters everywhere.
My glasses drive me crazy. They're always slipping at the wrong time. They never stay where I put them.
You don't have to put up with glasses that don't fit anymore, because at LensCrafters we have so many ways to fit your snug points. With features like snug fit hinges that flex to keep their lasting fit. And your glasses will be ready in about an hour. How's that?
Real secure. Finally, comfortable glasses that keep their fit.
LensCrafters will match any competitor's price.
At BASF, we don't make the meal, we make it healthier. We don't make the lotion, we make it smoother. We don't make the dress, we make it brighter. We don't make the carpet, we make it tougher. At BASF, we don't make a lot of the products you buy, we make a lot of the products you buy better. BASF.
They ruled our planet for 150 million years, then mysteriously disappeared. Now join the largest dinosaur hunt in history as scientists from Canada and China travel to the searing Gobi Desert, the Badlands of Alberta, and Canada's high Arctic in search of these primordial giants, in search of answers, in search of the dragon. Sunday beginning at 9 Eastern, only on Discovery Sunday.
It began as a dream. Sun-drenched skylights, cool blue fountains, and majestic palms. Valencia Town Center with exciting shops. Make Company, JCPenney, and Sears. And now, the cat's out of the bag. It's Valencia Town Center's grand opening. A dream come true. Discover the fun. Even a carousel with lions and tigers. Oh my! Valencia Town Center. It's even more than you expected.
This week on Video Hotline, the hottest movies in town.
I'd stop seeing the girl like, I don't know if I can.
Anybody who coaches a girls' soccer team is completely nuts!
Hey, who you calling goofy white mother? You goofy.
All on Video Hotline, the video store that delivers.
You could feel the fear in northern Vermont. 2 killers were on the loose. But a team of 8 detectives would soon be closing in on the trail of 2 local bullies.
4 days had passed since the killing when Missy Walbridge was buried. Her funeral was attended by her family and many townspeople. Melissa's grief-stricken classmates were also there that day. With the killers still on the loose, the children of Essex Junction were terrified they might strike again. By now, their parents were losing confidence in the police.
We knew that if we didn't get these people as quickly as possible, then there was a possibility of something like this happening again. Or if they were still in the area, that we had to provide as much protection to the community as possible.
Then, on day 5, Louis Hamlin's normally cheerful mother became suspicious of her son's behavior. She called his probation officer.
She said that he had shaved off his beard and had a BB gun that day, and she just sounded very distraught and was concerned that he might have been involved.
Did you relay that information to the investigators?
Yeah, I immediately called the State's Attorney's office.
There's a couple of things. One was the fact that he shaved his beard, that he wasn't in school, he was suspended. The other thing was we finally had a connection between a dark-haired individual and a light-haired individual. But the thing I guess that I remember anyways was the fact that he went to a pig slaughtering a couple weeks before. And the reason why that's important is Megan O'Rourke remembers the individual, the dark-haired man saying, now you're going to know what it's like to be shot 5 times, to be slaughtered like a pig, to die.
For Louis, time had run out. Police arrived at the Hamlin home with a search warrant and began going through his ground floor bedroom.
We found knives, various types of different weapons, detective magazines with such stories in as sex and torture of a 5-year-old girl.
At the Essex Junction police station, photographs of Louis and Jamie were added to mugshot albums, which were taken to Megan O'Rourke in the hospital.
She put her finger on both photographs.
Never said a word. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. She just put her finger on it and said, "That's the one."
Immediately, the boys were arrested and questioned separately. Louis tried to talk his way out of it, unsuccessfully.
He realized that we knew he was lying, and he didn't know what to do, and his mother began to realize what was going on, and at which point she broke down and began to cry, and she said, "Louis, may God help your soul." Louis just remarked, "Screw God, what the hell did he ever do for me?"
It was Jamie who talked. He would give police a complete confession, and his brother saw him soon afterward.
I asked him, I said, "Jamie, what the hell, what become of you? You know, what went wrong? What was going on in your head at the time?" He says, "Oh, me and Louis took some beer, drank it, and we got into something else." And I said, "What?" I said, "What? Go ahead, tell me. You know, I ain't gonna tell Ma. Go ahead." And he says, "Well, remember when we used to smoke pot?" And I said, "Yeah." So, "Well, I think that's what I done, because it got me a little mixed up, and I went along with Louis."
The boys were arraigned at 9 o'clock the next morning, and the news quickly spread that 2 suspects had been arrested, and the town breathed a sigh of relief. But that turned to anger when it was revealed that Jamie Savage was legally a juvenile, just under the age of 16, and thus he would automatically be set free when he reached his 18th birthday. Because he was legally an adult at 16, Louis Hamlin faced trial and possible life in prison on a murder charge. But at age 15, Jamie was simply sent to a state hospital for mental testing and then kept for 2 years under observation in juvenile detention centers. At age 18, the state's juvenile law required he be set free.
We got together one morning for coffee, and we were just discussing what was going on. We talked about it, we wrote something up, and within 2 hours, we were on the streets bringing these petitions to local merchants.
What their petition demanded was that the governor call a special session of the state legislature to lower the age juveniles could be sent to prison. 30,000 people wanted the laws immediately reformed. But the focus of their anger, Jamie Savage would not be touched. The laws could not be retroactive. The housewives' petition worked. At the state capitol, Vermont's legislature met in emergency session to vote on a bill that Governor Snelling had refused to endorse for 3 years, a bill sponsored by Lorraine Graham.
He was reluctant to call a special session, but when 30,000 signatures in the small state of Vermont were handed to him, I guess the governor thought it would be politically wise to call a special session then.
House to be in order. The vote was unanimous. The law was changed. Lowering the age young killers could be tried as adults from 16 to the surprisingly low age of 10.
It's too bad to say a tragedy had to happen, but that bill was there for 3 years.
Missy Walbridge was buried here in the Essex Junction Cemetery.
We're so sorry that Melissa had to leave this world in that way, but we have to accept that, because that is. And we have to pick up the pieces and make sense of what's left for us. Megan is not able to discuss it. It's, I think, her claim to sanity is she has to put it behind her. And the fact that she's been able to come back and join the real world is really commendable.
Megan O'Rourke still walks home from school. Physically, she has completely recovered, the survivor of what's being called the worst crime in Vermont history. She still bears the scars of a knife through her chest and the much deeper psychological shock. Just a few weeks before the trial, she feared having to testify publicly. But Megan was determined to go through with it for the sake of her murdered friend Missy, whose dying words were, "This can't be happening in Vermont."
By 1982, Vermont's new law was on the books, but it was too late to affect Jamie Savage, and Louis Hamlin was old enough to be tried as an adult under existing law. Louis went to trial 11 months after the death of Melissa Walbridge.
Security was tight on the day of the hearing at the Windsor Superior Courthouse. Megan arrived shielded from the cameras by a plainclothes policeman who accompanied her to the courtroom. Her parents agreed not to listen to her testimony at her request because she was embarrassed. Louis Hamlin arrived soon after Megan. Short and stocky and wearing glasses, He was quickly escorted into the courthouse, past cameramen who had waited for a year to get a clear picture of him. Next to arrive, Louis Hamblin's accomplice. In the year since his arrest, Jamie Savage had given nearly a dozen accounts of what had happened that day in the woods. Each story was slightly different. Prosecutors Mark Keller and Susan Villa were prepared to call 29 witnesses. Louis sat through the proceeding expressionless. He looked directly, though, at his old pal Jamie when he took the witness stand. Jamie, as expected, took the Fifth Amendment, refusing to say anything beyond his name. But even without Jamie's confession, the evidence against Louis was overwhelming, capped off by the emotional testimony of the young victim eyewitness, Megan O'Rourke. Megan's voice was barely audible as she answered questions put to her by Susan Villa. Villa asked what the men had done to her after undressing her. Megan stuttered and began to cry. Judge Thomas Hayes offered to call a recess, but the prosecutor demanded the judge allow the testimony to continue. And finally, in full detail, Megan described her sexual torture and what she had seen happen to Missy Walbridge. Megan was then asked if one of the two men who had attacked her was in the courtroom. Yes, she replied, and pointed to Louis Hamblin. It's the tradition at this historic courthouse for the jury to ring a bell when a verdict is decided. The bell tolled this time for Louis Hamblin, guilty of murder as charged.
What's happened since then to the main characters in this real-life drama? Since Louis Hamblin was sentenced as an adult, he was given a 45-year to life sentence. Vermont has no maximum security prison, so he is serving his time in a federal prison out of state. He won't be eligible for parole until the year 2015. Jamie Savage was released from a correctional facility in 1983. Because he was treated as a juvenile, he served only 2 years. In 1985, having changed his name, he was arrested in Fargo, North Dakota for car theft and convicted. He served 16 months in a state prison. In 1987, he was convicted of a crime again, this time assault, in Minneapolis. The victim of their vicious attack graduated from college in 1991. She turned down our request for an interview, but has kept in close touch with the prosecutor in the case, Mark Keller.
I feel very good that Megan was able to put the tragedy that she went through behind her. She and I have talked on 100 occasions or more about other subjects, but she and I have never mentioned once this particular crime or ever discussed any aspect of the crime.
Keller also tried the first case under the new law treating young killers as adults. By 1992, he was in private practice, and he feels that the new law may not be a deterrent, but it is an important weapon against juvenile crime.
As a prosecutor, it was very helpful to have that law in effect when you ran into the 1 out of 1,000 juveniles who was a very, very dangerous individual that you had to get him off the street.
There are those who say young people who kill should face even harsher punishment. When we come back, we'll meet a teenager who was sent to death row and look at a case that changed the law. When the Justice Files continues.
This portion of Discovery is brought to you in part by Mercury.
At first, we were going to use a lot of glamorous professional models to advertise our cars. Then we considered the famous basketball player. What's his name with the shoes? We also looked at expensive special effects, catchy jingles, and snappy slogans. Then we had the big idea. Why not just show all the cars and mention things like smooth ride and fully equipped comfort and leave the gimmicks to the other guys? Okay, so we used one glamorous professional model. All this and the quality of a Mercury.
With Minwax polyurethane, you can do more than admire your wood. You can live with it, too, because Minwax contains pure urethane oil to protect wood while giving it beauty you can really live with. Minwax keeps wood beautiful.
Now at Red Lobster.
Well, we've got a new special tonight. It's got everything. Petite lobster and 2 kinds of shrimp for just $10.99.
Start with petite lobster tails, sweet and delicious. Add our savory scampi. Then our famous grilled shrimp to top off a terrific dinner.
It's new.
It's petite lobster and shrimp 2 different ways for a limited time, just $10.99.
It's delicious.
And it's only at Red Lobster.
If you're not recycling, you're throwing it all away.
They roamed the plains, driving cattle. They worked hard and endured. But were they the original American heroes? Roger Kennedy's Rediscovering America explores the legend and mystique of the real American cowboy. Monday at 8 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel. Brought to you by Dodge, a division of the Chrysler Corporation. Tuesday, it's Gizmos and Gadgets on the Discovery Channel. First, a big idea that's growing every day. Discover the unfolding story of collapsible art and memories of the mighty Wurlitzer on invention. Then at 9:30, take the next step. Set the wheels in motion with the ultimate wheelchair and witness the latest in handheld computers. Tuesday, beginning at 9 Eastern.
Some states argue that if young people are old enough to kill, they're old enough to die for their crimes. Does the specter of the death penalty make a young killer think twice? Let's go back to a 1988 report and the case of Wayne Thompson. He claimed he was only protecting his sister from the brutality of her ex-husband. An Oklahoma jury found him guilty of murder and sentenced him to death. His case, and the issue of teenagers on death row, went all the way to the Supreme Court.
This is the execution chamber at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. An official death warrant orders that Wayne Thompson die here, that he be put to death by continuous intravenous administration of lethal drugs. That's the price the state of Oklahoma demands for an especially brutal murder, and there's no dispute the murder of Charles Keene was that. Keene had been dead for 3 weeks when they pulled his body from the bottom of a river near rural Chickasha, Oklahoma.
Well, they weighted his body first with a large log chain and a very heavy concrete block. They had him weighted down, and that's where they sunk his body.
Charles Keene died as he had lived, brutally. He had a long criminal record, drug problems, and was described in court as a bully who tormented and repeatedly beat his wife, Vicki, even after the two had divorced. Vicki even considered killing Keene.
Yeah.
Thought about killing your husband?
Either me or him won.
Vicki didn't kill her husband. Her 15-year-old brother did.
You must have hated Keene very badly.
I did.
What were you thinking?
At that time, I was scared, very nervous.
Tell me more. What was the night like that night?
It's very cold. I believe there was snow and patches on the ground.
It was a night much like this one, cold, still, black. It was January 23rd, 1983, way past midnight. Wayne Thompson and 3 of his friends muscled Keene into a car and brought him to this desolate bridge over the Washita River that runs alongside town. Keene broke away and ran to the nearest house, where the sound of gunfire woke Malcolm Brown, known around here as Possum.
About 2 or 2:30 that night, in the morning, a.m., boy knocked on my door and hollered, open the door and let me in, they're going to kill me.
Mr. and Mrs. Brown saw them pick up the man off the front porch and load him into the trunk of an automobile. He'd been severely beaten. His leg had been broken. Charles Keene couldn't run anymore. Wayne Thompson came back and told people that he'd cut his throat and that he shot him in the head.
Wayne Thompson came to trial in this Chickasha courtroom 11 months after the crime. He was then 16 years old. The judge ruled he should be tried as an adult. The prosecution demanded the death penalty.
It was difficult to make a decision, very difficult. When you're dealing with another man's life, it makes it very difficult to decide what should be done.
It was difficult, but swift.
It took Thompson's jurors only part of an afternoon to find him guilty, part of the evening to set his penalty.
Wayne Thompson thus became the 32nd person now facing execution in this country for crimes committed while under the age of 18. Age has never been found to be a constitutional barrier to execution, and while putting juvenile offenders to death has become rare in the United States, it has occurred nearly 300 times in our history. The youngest person to be executed in this century is George Stinney. He was 14 when South Carolina put him to death for murder in 1944. He weighed 95 pounds. And both the American Civil Liberties Union and Amnesty International have mobilized against Wayne Thompson's death sentence.
Do we really want to think of ourselves as so medieval and so barbaric that we do not shy away from the spectacle, in effect, of hanging children? That's what the Supreme Court has to decide.
And what it does decide has the potential to change the course of history. Thompson's lawyers are asking for what would be a landmark ruling, that it's unconstitutional to execute Thompson or anyone else who was a juvenile at the time of the offense. They cite the 8th Amendment and its protection against cruel and unusual punishment.
We contend that there are basic dominant American traditions, that younger children, and Wayne Thompson was a child under the laws of Oklahoma at the time, are to be judged differently and perhaps treated less harshly than adults.
Wayne Thompson, he deserved to die like any other person that would go out and commit this kind of act. This is not a boy. This is not a juvenile or a kid of an immature. He's not immature.
But at his trial, the defense argued that Wayne Thompson's youth made him particularly vulnerable, that he was driven to protect his sister against Keene's violence.
After we'd been married for a period of time, I felt like it was my fault. You know.
I seen him myself beat her up. I seen her afterward, you know, black eyes, busted up face and stuff like that. And I ran in to help them and ended up getting beat up myself.
Did he ever molest you sexually?
He wasn't successful, but he tried.
The jury's decision was that neither Charles Keene's character nor Wayne Thompson's youth excused the crime.
He was a youngster, but that didn't change the crime. It didn't change anything. It was done. A 15-year-old doesn't consider death as happening to them. I mean, ask any 15-year-old, would they believe they was going to die if they did something? They'll tell you no.
You didn't think at all about being executed?
No. We tell them, no, if you do this, this is going to happen to you. They go do it, and it doesn't happen.
You were arrested 9 times. How come you never cleaned up your act?
They never did nothing to me. They put me on probation when I was 11 years old, and I was arrested numerous times after that, and they still never did do nothing to me. Wayne continued until, and we allowed Wayne. You know, you stop and think about it. That boy may be where he's at today because of the environment that he's been brought up in of, we're not going to do anything.
What did you think when you were released after you got picked up for doing something, of a burglary or for using drugs, and they let you go? Did you kind of feel that you beat the system?
Yeah, I feel like I got away with it.
You felt kind of invulnerable?
I guess so. I guess.
Invincible?
Yeah. Wouldn't say invincible.
Wayne Thompson won his stay of execution in the Supreme Court. The court, in a narrowly defined decision, ruled that a state could not execute anyone under 16 without specifically writing the minimum age for execution into the law.
I mean, this is my kitchen, my bedroom, my bathroom, my living room, and everything right here in this one small space.
In 1992, Wayne was serving a life sentence at a state prison in Oklahoma, where he's part of a group called Straight Talk, which counsels young people about the pitfalls of crime.
My name is Wayne Thompson. I've been locked up a little over 9 years. I got life with parole. I go up for parole in January of 1998. A kid that commits a violent crime is most generally already in trouble. You got to deal with it from the beginning, from the time the kid gets arrested from shoplifting.
In a different case in 1989, the Supreme Court again ruled that the execution of juvenile offenders was indeed constitutional. But the court's decision was so narrow, it's almost certain that a similar case will find its way to the Supreme Court again.
To me, using the death sentence is saying we can no longer deal with this person. We are unable to deal with this person, so let's just kill him.
In a moment, is there an alternative to harsh sentences and prison life? We'll look at some promising answers as the Justice Files continues.
Roger Kennedy's Rediscovering America explores the legend and mystique of the real American cowboy. Monday at 8 Eastern, only on the Discovery Channel.
Attention homeowners. Coming your way now. Special savings when you have Sears install new custom windows. Tired of repainting those old wood windows over and over? Then call now and save $75 each on Sears' best replacement windows. That's $75 off each window from Sears' wide selection, including easy cleaning tilt-in models. Imagine $75 off Sears' best installed custom-sized windows. But hurry, this is a limited time offer. Call Sears now for your free in-home estimate. All are energy-efficient dual pane or choose low-E glass to help save energy. Right now, save $75 on Sears' best windows. Arrange your free in-home estimate today. Satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. Call now before this offer's come and gone. For all your home improvements, you can count on Sears, the most trusted name around the house.
Introducing Nordic Flex Gold, the newest idea in strength training that is 5 ways better than SoloFlex. Nordic Flex Gold has linear motion to better simulate free weights. Nordic Flex Gold has isokinetic resistance to better match your natural strength curve. Nordic Flex Gold is faster to use than SoloFlex. Nordic Flex Gold has electronics to monitor your performance. And best of all, Nordic Flex Gold costs 1/3 less. Call now to order your Nordic Flex Gold.
The spirit of flight, lifting you skyward as we examine the very latest in aviation and look back to the planes and pioneers that took the world by storm. It's an all-new season this fall, only on the Discovery Channel.
White men can't jump.
Order White Men Can't Jump October 1st to the 4th on Video Hotline, and you can win a pair of tickets to see
Bryan Adams, the Waking Up the Neighbors Tour. October 10th and 11th at the Universal Amphitheater.
Order White Men Can't Jump, and you could see Bryan Adams. Winners randomly selected.
And then you were almost there.
Hi, honey.
Hi.
I got the stuff back from Fast Frame.
Already? Gee, that was quick.
Yeah, it looks great.
Wow, it really does. It looks terrific. I can't believe they did it so quickly.
It was easy. I just took it to Fast Frame, they laid it out, and helped me design it. And it was ready the next day.
Honey, it's perfect.
Now, $49 custom poster framing at 11 San Fernando Valley Fast Frame locations.
We've been hearing from those who want to get tough with juvenile offenders, and also from those who say it doesn't act as a deterrent. Is there another way? This 1983 report focused national attention on a juvenile charged as an adult and some promising alternatives to revolving door justice.
You are watching a 13-year-old killer being interrogated by police. He's trying to put the blame on someone else. The date, October 21st, 1978.
The black book came out.
And he was trying to take the dude's box, right? And the dude came, shot him.
Trying to take what?
His box, radio.
Yeah.
He shot him in the back once, and then when the dude running again, he shot him again.
Where?
His name is Louis Bonilla. He was the youngest person ever tried as an adult for murder under a New York state law passed in 1978. That law was rushed through the legislature during an election year. It was in response to media sensationalism and public outcry over a series of especially brutal murders by juveniles. Bonilla was found guilty of shooting a 17-year-old over a portable radio.
I didn't really mean to shoot him, you know. Gun just went off. He started running. I shot him again. And he fell in the corner. I was still running. Went up to my house. Got rid of the gun. I got arrested. I didn't even get the radio. I didn't get nothing out of there. Nothing. All I got was 4 years.
During that 4th year, Bonilla was allowed to come home on weekend furloughs to visit his mother here in the Bronx. On one such visit, he got together with some friends. Armed with guns and knives, they robbed 2 men outside this store, then stole their car. 30 minutes later, they were caught. This time, Bonilla, who is now 18 years old, was sent to an adult prison to serve a 10-year sentence for armed robbery.
I think with the Bonilla case and probably maybe 1,400 other cases a year in New York City demonstrate that there is a need to treat a certain group of juveniles, a small percentage of them, as adult criminals because of the fact that they are committing adult crime. And we don't know of any better way in which to handle them.
The laws across the country on when you're a juvenile and when you're not vary from state to state. In New York, you're treated as an adult at 16. In West Virginia, it's 18. And in half the states, it doesn't matter how young you are. If you're convicted of an adult crime, you go to an adult prison. And mixing kids and adults in prison can cause problems. Charles James runs the prison outside Buffalo where Louis Bonilla is incarcerated.
I wish that we had separate facilities for most inmates that are younger than 18 years of age. I'd have less incidents of, I believe, fights, problems in this area, and maybe especially if you get a young-looking 16-year-old who's not too aggressive, he probably is looked upon by some of the older inmates as a homosexual, and he's going to suffer a lot of problems because of that. It creates more problems for me having the two mixed together.
Still, lots of people find it hard to be sympathetic when confronted by a crime like this one. Yale, Michigan, April 7th, 1982. James Porter, age 16, in a fit of rage, shoots and kills a girl who refuses to date him, as well as 4 other members of her family. It is crimes such as this which have convinced 14 states to make it easier to prosecute juveniles as adults. For even though the juvenile crime rate is declining, kids still account for 33% of all crime in America and 18% of the violent offenses. But not everyone believes that treating kids like adults is the right solution. Juvenile crime expert Paul DeMuro.
The issue is looking at some easy political answer. Treat them as adults. Well, hell, we've been treating people like adults for a long time in this country. We lock up more people on a percentage basis than any other country except Russia and South Africa. And our adult crime rate hasn't done very well.
All right, please. Seymour Gelber has been a juvenile court judge in Miami for 9 years. He has often sent kids who've committed serious crimes onto adult courts for prosecution, but he has done so reluctantly.
You take a 14-year-old kid or a 15-year-old kid, lock him up. You like 5? How about 10 years? Now he's 25. Now he's really something that you have to be afraid of because you have de-spirited him, you have desocialized him, de-gutted him in prison for 10 years. He was bad enough when he was 15 and couldn't read or write.
Frank, I want you guys to jump down there and check the water and the oil, okay?
Judge Gelber prefers sending kids to programs like this one run by the Dade Marine Institute in Miami.
They've been told they're losers their whole life, and we change that around. We give them small goals that they can attain and then give them a lot of positive thought for attaining that goal. And you keep on doing that to a kid, and he's going to build up his own ego, and he's going to start feeling proud of what he does.
Using the sea, boating, and scuba diving as an incentive. Counselors motivate the class of 40 kids to learn basic work skills and to earn a high school equivalency diploma so they can get a job.
Most everybody likes to sea, and you don't get to go out on anything unless you do your regular work.
Ready? Go. The 6-month program works. 82% of the kids, many of whom have been arrested a dozen times for vandalism, car theft, burglary, 82% of them don't get into trouble again. But what about the kids who've committed far more serious, even vicious crimes, the candidates for an adult prison? There is a sister program for them, too.
I'm 16, and I committed a strong arm robbery. 16 years old. I was sentenced to Florida Environmentalist for first-degree attempted murder.
I'm 16. I'm here for burglary, assault and battery on a police officer, carrying a concealed weapon, resisting arrest.
Go, guys. Come on, guys. Time to get up. Here you go, guys.
It is 7 a.m. The kids here face a day of hard labor and strict discipline. There will be no swearing, no smoking, no gambling, no fighting. They will say yes, sir, and no, sir. They will say their prayers, and they will pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, guys, let's go to work.
There are 14 kids in this experimental program. They are supervised every minute. The counselors eat with them, work with them, and even watch them as they sleep. Since the kids here are among the most dangerous in Florida and in the nation, the camp is located in the middle of nowhere on the outskirts of the Everglades. It is surrounded by woods and creeks and swamps filled with alligators and snakes, wild hogs and mosquitoes. Escape is almost impossible.
It's a real adjustment time for them. Plus, they're away from their family. They're away from being able to run around to the corner and grab a couple of their buddies and either find a joint of marijuana or a can of beer. So it's tough.
The kids are expected to work 7 hours a day, 6 days a week. Here, they are building a footbridge which will let them get to a nearby lake where they can catch fish for the camp.
Participation was top-notch. Attitude was what we expect. Leadership was what we expect. Cleanup is where you made your extra half.
3 kids are assigned to each counselor, and the counselors are paid a bonus depending upon how the kids perform, and performance is determined by points which are awarded 3 times a day. The program is run by a private, non-profit organization which spends about $50 a day for each kid. 70% of its money comes from the state of Florida.
Many programs have been successful in wilderness atmospheres such as this, in changing kids' behavior. The difference is going to be we're going to follow them into the community, give them 6 months of educational and vocational training after they get back to Miami or whatever large city they're from, and then after that educational and vocational training, we're going to place them in jobs and follow them up.
And when we leave here, we'll be grown men, young grown men, with a better attitude, and hopefully, you know, have our life turned around.
Turning kids around is why the juvenile justice system was set up 84 years ago, because kids are considered special, worth saving. But now the trend is toward punishing kids like adults. In a camp like this, however, a 13-year-old Louis Vanilla might have turned out differently. We will never know. What we do know is that trying him as an adult and locking him up didn't do him any good.
At least we separated him from society for a period of time. God only knows as to how many other crimes he would have committed had he not been incarcerated. How many other people would have been dead? How many other people would have been ripped off?
Sadly, since that 1983 report, juvenile crime has only increased, but also the alternative programs for juvenile offenders in Florida have flourished. Louis Vanilla was released in December 1990. Since then, he's had several run-ins with the law over drug use and possession. By 1992, he was arrested for violating parole, and he was back behind bars. Florida's Marine Institute has become a model program for the nation. By 1992, there were 30 programs in 8 states working with 2,300 juveniles every year.
I mean, this is the only chance you have. This is the last chance. If you don't do it here, then you ain't going to do it nowhere.
Seymour Gelber, the judge who supported that program and sent youthful offenders there, retired from the bench in 1990, and in 1991 was elected mayor of Miami Beach. He remains convinced that rehabilitating youthful offenders is the only answer.
You can be understanding and compassionate, and it's important to be that. But you also have to be tough and make sure that kids understand that if you commit a crime, you're going to have to pay a penalty.
When we come back, we'll look at some of the larger issues raised by what we've seen. And we'll hear from Harvard Law School professor Arthur Miller on the challenges we face for the future when the Justice Files continues.
Coming up next, ride the wind over East Africa on Challenge.
Are you ready to finally get in shape? To lose weight aerobically? To tone and strengthen stomach, thighs, and buttocks? Thinking about getting in shape is the first step. The next step is easy. Fitness Effects presents Easy Step. Experts agree stair climbing provides a superior aerobic workout. Now you can enjoy the benefits of stair climbing in the comfort of your own home. And it's so easy. If you can walk, you can easy step. Just step on the slip-resistant foot plates and step, step, step to a fitter, trimmer you. Just 20 minutes 3 times a week and you'll burn maximum calories in minimum time. Step by step, you firm and shape buttocks, thighs, and calves. Most expensive stair climbers only work muscles from the waist down. Easy Step's unique free step-in system adds an upper body workout to strengthen and tone all major muscle groups. Easy Step helps improve coordination and balance while providing an excellent cardiovascular workout. There's no assembly required. You set the pace and achieve your personal goals as you step away stress and calories. The hydraulic resistance system gently cushions each step while providing just the right amount of resistance. Easy Step folds down to an incredible 4 inches to conveniently slip out of sight. And it's so portable and compact, you can Easy Step anytime, anywhere. With all steel construction, Easy Step is engineered to last and comes complete with an amazing 5-year warranty. Best of all, unlike this $1,000 monster, Easy Step can be yours for 3 easy payments of $33. Exclusively available from Fitness Effects. So take the Easy Step to a younger, firmer-looking you and order now.
Don't be fooled by imitations. Just call 1-800-522-7600. We'll bill your credit card 3 monthly payments of only $33 plus shipping and handling. To order your original Easy Step, call now 1-800-522-7600. That's 1-800-522-7600. Just 3 monthly payments and your satisfaction is guaranteed with our convenient payment plan. Call 1-800-522-7600.
They ruled our planet for 150 million years, then mysteriously disappeared. Now join the largest dinosaur hunt in history as scientists from Canada and China travel to the searing Gobi Desert, the Badlands of Alberta, and Canada's high Arctic in search of these primordial giants, in search of answers, in search of the dragon. Sunday beginning at 9 Eastern, only on Discovery Sunday.
The cases from our Justice Files are just 3 that changed the way we look at young people who kill. But the debate over how to deal with them pits our optimism about our children against the pessimism from our experiences in a world full of violent crime. Many say programs like this one are the greatest hope for the future. It's a Utah state program that targets juvenile offenders before they stand trial. It gives them a taste of prison life, but it also works to break the cycle of violence with a full day of school, morals class, even court time with a basketball coach.
It feels good to know that while we've got kids in here, we're not making them worse. You know, I think we're really helping them stay out of places like this in the future.
Some of the children in this program do commit crimes again. Some even go to prison. But for more than half, this marks their last brush with the law. Proponents say programs like these cost no more than the warehousing of juveniles. Our legal expert, Professor Arthur Miller of the Harvard Law School, has some thoughts on the subject.
When you pick up the paper or listen to talk shows, you hear plenty of people demanding that we get tough with this new violent generation of children. But by throwing kids in jail with even more hardened criminals and little rehabilitation, we may be guaranteeing that some of them become career criminals. That means we need to find the children who are not yet chronic offenders, who can be saved from a life of crime, try to rehabilitate them while they're still young through education and counseling. The only alternative is warehousing violent juveniles in jail. Sure, it keeps them off the streets, but eventually they will get out, with or without rehabilitation. And then some of them might become your neighbors.
I'm Forrest Sawyer. Thanks for being with us. Join us again as we look behind the headlines at crime, punishment, and the law on the next edition of the Justice Files.
Coming up, indulge yourself in a breathtaking view of East Africa as you ride the wind in a hot air balloon. But territorial animals await your landing. Next on Challenge.
It's an all-new season coming this fall, only on the Discovery Channel.
Teddy bear, turn around. Teddy bear, touch the ground.
The airbag,
Teddy bear,
the safety belt, anti-lock brakes. At Liberty Mutual, we've conducted our own safety research on cars to reduce injuries and reduce insurance costs. Any alternative would be just too costly.
From the director of Alien, Blade Runner, and Thelma and Louise comes a voyage beyond the horizon and the truth behind the adventure of 1492.
New World is a disaster.
Gerard Depardieu, Amanda Sante, and Sigourney Weaver in a Ridley Scott film. 1492, Conquest of Paradise. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, October 9th at theaters everywhere.
They roamed the plains, driving cattle. They worked hard and endured. But were they the original American heroes? Roger Kennedy's Rediscovering America explores the legend and mystique of a real American cowboy. Monday at 8.